Saturday Night Live had a good one a little while ago. They said Vladimir Putin is fighting cancer, and for the first time, I'm rooting for the cancer.
Wow.
It's bad, but yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it was reported that cancer has Vladimir Putin.
Oh, the Putin jokes are starting.
Just putting it out there.
Putin on the Ritz.
Putin on the Ritz. All right, guys, what's new this week?
That's the idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Discussing. So the first thing is good news.
I'm excited about this first one.
All right.
Honestly. And not in the way that you listeners think I'm excited.
No, not yeah. This is a avoiding prosecution excited, not the world is burning excited.
Well, congratulations, Duane.
Right?
What'd you do to celebrate?
Woohoo! I hacked a couple sites.
This story feels obvious, but for those of you who don't know, that the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, CFAA, has been around for a while, and it's fairly vague.
I believe Mr. Morris was the first one charged with that.
Robert Tappan Morris?
Robert Tappan Morris with the first, with the Morris worm. Yeah, 82 or whatever.
So the headline reads, U.S. Department of Justice will no longer prosecute good faith hackers.
Woohoo!
So, I think it's a hacker's dream that they're going to hack, and do all sorts of weird things, and then some company's going to get wind of it and offer them a job. Right? I mean, it's kind of like the teenage hacker script kiddie's dream, isn't it?
This is to protect the actual, people who are trying to do good, the Good Samaritan law. The problem is, so for example, let's say, we find a Google dork out on the internet, which is just a web search that produces vulnerable results. You can also do a Shodan search, Duane's mentioned several times, and you find a system in your state that's vulnerable, that's operated by a nonprofit or by the government. Before this statement, you weren't sure whether the feds would prosecute you for remember that guy in I think it was in Mississippi?
Yes.
Who pointed out that one of their websites had a flaw?
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was this was a guy who pointed out that there was a flaw in the system, and a politician went after him. Yeah, government went after him.
I think this might be a result of that kind of thing. And the governor wanted them to go after him. Now, this doesn't protect you from state prosecution. That still could happen, but the feds aren't going to be coming after you if you're trying to do good. If you're obviously trying to help the security of the system, and you're not, if you steal the information, if you use the identities that you find, if any of the things that we would consider a crime are still crimes, but discovering a vulnerability and then divulging it to the people who have it is no longer a crime.
So, all right, Duane. So it's time for what? Career criminal advice.
Hacker advice.
I know what you're going to say. Yeah. So how would you get around this? Would you try to disguise yourself as doing something good, maybe? Like wolf in sheep's clothing kind of thing?
Well, see, listen, if you were to breach those sites and get all that data, no. Honestly, so as a random example, just like not related to reality, but Patrick and Carl, if we were to say a hacker were to find a Google dork that then found access to a government website, that they could then see all of the users and credit card information for users who were purchasing a particular thing on that site.
Right.
And then they happened to call that government agency, and that government agency said, "What were you doing on our site?" Now we would have some reason we could say it's okay, we're good faith.
Well, and again, it's the feds that said they wouldn't prosecute you. The states never said that. So you still need to be aware of the laws in the states.
All right, then I'll hold on.
Yeah.
Never mind.
The ununited states of America.
No, I think this is, honestly, I think this is a step in the right direction, because from the hacker community for the last, 20 years, it's, Carl, you joke about like the script kiddies going, I'm going to hack into like into NASA. And get offered a job to, secure it. And more often than not, what's happened in the past is if you hack into NASA, or you hack into some government agency, or you hack into some bank or whatever, you get prosecuted.
You go to jail.
Yeah, exactly. There's very, 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 very few stories of a hacker breaking into a place and then getting offered a job from that place. It just doesn't happen.
That's not how it works.
That's the movies. In the real world, they offer to put you in a 5x5 cell for the rest of your life because you decided to show them how bad their security was.
And if you do your time, then maybe you can emerge.
Honestly, though, even then, I think it's rare.
Mitnick's the one that
Mitnick's done it, yes.
It's the exception to the rule.
Right.
Well, I also think, someone like Paula Janiskowicz, who did that famous interview when she was interviewed, waiting in the reception area and asked if she could get on their Wi-Fi to check her email. By the time she got to the interview, she gave all the secrets to their databases.
They could have had her arrested on the spot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't think she was in the United States when she did that.
Okay.
So
career advice, don't do that.
Or if you're going to do that, make sure they can't find you.
There's plenty of open platforms you can hack, like Hack the Box and things like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So there's no need to go after live systems and put your liberty at risk.
But that being said, there are a lot of us, security-minded experts who from time to time will find issues on sites that we are not engaged in attacking.
And this gives you cover.
And this gives us cover, right? There are plenty of times that I will try and anonymously route a message to an organization to let them know that they have an exploit, but I have to cover my tracks very much so that these things don't happen. So honestly, I think this will help.
I wonder if now this gives us an avenue, and I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on TV. I wonder if this gives us an avenue now that we didn't have before. So, for example, let's say we found it wasn't in Mississippi. Let's say that we found it on a healthcare site in Mississippi, and we wanted to notify them. Now you could just notify the press, and it wouldn't be a leak if the press went and then notified the people. Then again, they'd probably publish it instead.
I don't know. I don't know. Because you and I know of that site that we know.
Yeah.
That I don't know that we would talk about. But if I were to put that in the press, they would not be very happy.
This is a good teachable moment. That article mentioned white hat hackers. And I don't think we've really ever defined what the different colors of hats mean.
Good guys.
In the hacker world. So the white hats are good guys, right?
Yeah. It's a vague system, and it depends on the context. But for the most part, white hat means good guys.
Right.
Red hat means good guys acting like bad guys.
Like for hire, like you guys.
Yeah.
Blue hat means good guys defending.
Blue hat means good guys defending?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And purple hat is guys who are in the middle, who attack and defend.
I thought purple hats were reserved for 50-year-old ladies. Who
Not anymore, Carl. Not anymore.
All right. So wait a minute. So white hat, good guys.
Yes.
Red hat, good guys for hire, pen testers like you guys, right?
Well, yeah, but posing as the bad guys. A red team is a group that attacks. That's what we do.
Right? Yeah.
So we'll come in and attack. We act
but everybody
like
knows
hats.
you're going to try to attack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's not like you're doing anything nefarious.
So it's red versus blue. So there's a blue team on the other side that's trying to detect us and defend.
Oh, is that what red versus blue is all about? Like Halo?
I mean, it originally comes from the military, but yes.
Okay. All right. So blue hats are good guys defending a red hat attack. And then purple is what?
Somebody plays both sides.
Purple is people who are on both sides. So people who know how to attack and also know how to defend and work both sides.
And then black hat is just pure evil.
Black Hat's supposed to be pure evil, which is an interesting term because the biggest security conference is Black Hat. But
so I think the whole purple thing is just insecurity of hackers worrying they'll be pigeonholed when it's just not a thing. Most people don't play a purple role in a red versus blue scenario.
Hey Patrick.
Yeah.
Did you notice that Duane's wearing a black hat?
I got to take that off when I put cameras on. Sorry. Interestingly enough, there's a lot of drive in the industry to change the colors too. To not be colors anymore, not be black hat and red hat and blue hat and purple hat, but to be you're the adversary emulation team.
Is it because colors are offensive by nature?
I think so. I don't know.
I think it's the George Carlin thing about post-traumatic stress disorder. We just get longer and longer names for things.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, numbers, no. Names, no.
No.
Colors, no. What's left?
Food. I want to be on the.
I'm hot
Pizza Hat.
I'd like to be on the candy bar team.
Krispy Kreme hat.
Oh my God! Yes.
Wait a minute. I thought we were talking about food here.
Ribeye
hat.
I mean, attempts to change the way people refer to things are usually doomed.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's blown against the wind. Yep. All right, what's next, guys? What's PyPy?
PyPy. So for any of you who have programmed in Python, obviously there's a bazillion libraries out there that you can pull in, just like any programming language. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Carl, as you're programming in Blazor and all the other languages and platforms you're in.
Language, my
friend. Right. So you have C#, and you can pull in a lot of, I'd assume, libraries that you could use that weren't developed by you that are out on some repo somewhere. Well,
right.
PyPy is a simple way to have a sort of global repository. So if you want to interact with, say, Discord, there's a package for Discord, and you can create a chat
NuGet for Python.
Exactly. Yep.
All right.
But being that it is kind of an open source thing where anybody could submit a package, there are people obviously who submit malicious packages. So in this particular case, the package that was submitted was the PyMafka package, so PyMafka package, which is very close to the legitimate library in PyPy called PyKafka, which is an Apache library.
It gives you a giant cockroach.
Cockroaches. So the thing here is they're typo squatting on a library name. You happen to type in the wrong name, you're going to get this PyMafka as opposed to PyKafka.
It reminds me of the nefarious taxi drivers in Bulgaria. Have either of you guys experienced this?
No, I've never been to Bulgaria.
Well, so there's taxi drivers that are legitimate, but by law they're required to post their fares in graphics on the taxi, right?
Oh.
And then there are others that are nefarious. They basically go up a decimal point, so it's 10 times what everybody else is, but you don't see it because the graphics are deceptive in the way that they are. And so I got in a cab from the airport when I was going to a hotel to speak at a conference there many years ago. And the guy says, it was going to be like, I don't know, $70 US, when normally it would be like, $7.
Wow.
And I said, that's outrageous. I'm not paying. And he says, well, then we will wait for the police. And apparently you have no case because the numbers is posted not clearly, but it's misleading. But
yes.
Yeah.
It's the same type of thing here. If you're, developing your application and you wanted the PyKafka and you happen to type it wrong and you click on PyMafka and you install it and use it, what this will do is install a Cobalt Strike backdoor.
Wow.
So Cobalt Strike is a big C2, so command and control structure, that's designed literally to deploy all sorts of malicious things to your systems. It's typically supposed to be used by white hats and red hats, although we're finding...
It's a legitimate software.
Is it? We're finding, I think, more black hats use it than anybody else, but...
All right, so what the thing says is it opens backdoors on Windows, Linux, and Macs. So unlike an attack from the outside, this is something that the user of that machine will install, not knowing that it is opening the computer for business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and honestly, I mean, this is a great lesson to don't install libraries from open source or even packages or NuGet or whatever if you don't know what they do.
Right, and you don't trust them.
Yeah, this particular package, when you go to a NuGet package or you go to a PyPy package, whatever, there's a description as to what the package does. There's a website, there's a wiki usually, there's documentation,
and there's source code.
Right, and there's source code for you to read. This had none of that. Literally, like it was a blank package page.
Yeah, but even if it did, it could be a copy of the legitimate Kafka stuff. So you need to really verify like how long it's been there, and
what the
we're
code
starting to
is.
get into the phase of it's like phishing mail. We can't rely on phishing mail to be obviously stupid anymore.
And the obvious thing to do is Google the name or Bing the name or whatever, and see what people are saying about it. Because if somebody gets screwed, they're going to complain online somewhere.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Or if there's no results, it's not the one you've been told is fantastic because it has no record.
Right. More social engineering.
Woohoo.
It's all social engineering. Everything is social engineering. It all comes down to deceiving in some way or hiding. It all comes down to social. They say that all combat is deception.
Really?
All warfare is deception.
Wow.
Huh. Who said that?
I did. No.
Joe Sue.
I just did. Isn't your mic on? It's I don't know who said it. It might actually be from Sun Tzu, but it's definitely an old adage.
Lao Tzu? Was that Art of War, Lao Tzu?
Yes.
I can't believe I know that.
It was Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu, not Lao Tzu.
Yeah.
Lao Tzu is the Taoist.
That's his older brother.
Yeah. That's right. Sun Tzu, the Art of War. Yes.
The Zoo Boys.
The Zoo Boys.
The Zoo Crew.
It's his brother. One is the Art of War, and the other one is about Taoism, like the most peaceful religion in the world. Yeah, right.
So that dinner table must have been interesting.
Separated at birth.
It's like twins. Did you see that movie?
Yes.
Danny DeVito and yeah.
But actually, Tzu is the first name, isn't it? And so it's like, Joe Smith and Joe Stalin.
Right.
Actually, that works, doesn't it? Joseph Smith and Joseph Stalin.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, enough of that. Let's talk about Russia, because we haven't talked about Russia except to joke around about Putin.
Right. They haven't been in the news at all.
No.
So
Anonymous is obviously very anti-Russian, and they have reported to have taken down satellites and TV stations and things, but they declared cyber war on a pro-Russian hacker gang called Killnet. So what happened here? What's Killnet?
Yeah, so Killnet is they're very much a Russian or support Russian, the Russian invasion in Ukraine and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they've what's interesting is they've been attacking, obviously not Ukraine, but they've been attacking a lot of other sites like,
EU.
A lot of EU sites, Italy, a lot of the government ministries there. So Anonymous finally just opened up and said, listen, we've declared a cyber war, which is weird because I don't know that I've ever seen anybody officially say we've declared a cyber war. You just attack them. It's like guerrilla warfare, right? And this is almost like like Anonymous is some sort of nation state and said, hey, listen, we're declaring war.
If I was Anonymous, I wouldn't declare anything. I'd just hack.
Right? Yeah.
Why are we declaring things?
It's never anonymous.
That's kind of maybe
it probably
hubris.
helps their recruiting if they get the street cred for that stuff.
Well, maybe you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's interesting.
Maybe they're hoping to get sponsorship.
Anonymous sponsored by Hack the Box.
The Legion of Doom.
Sponsored by Security This Week. Doo-doo.
So if you go to a hacker convention, do their name tags all read like Salty Spider and, Big Bollocks
level.
and
yeah, it depends on which conference. I think some of them, you use handles, and then in others you use your name. And
DEF CON's probably more a handle place.
Dwayne,
RSA
what's
is more of a business and title.
Dwayne, what's your handle?
What's my handle? I got two.
Yeah.
I got two that I could tell you about.
Don't say it.
Oh, you have two?
I have two.
Patrick, what's
They call him Mr. Tibbs.
Shoot him.
No, actually, it's funny is my handle is one of my handles is Ono Sende, and a lot of people when I'm in the hacker groups or whatnot always think that means I'm of Asian descent of some sort. Which, if you've ever seen a picture of me, I'm about as far away from Asian descent as possible.
You're as white as a Ritz cracker,
right? French Canadian, not very, So, but needless to say, Ono Sendai is actually a term that came out of a William Gibson book, and it was the name of a computer hacking deck. So there's your esoteric knowledge of hacking.
My hacker name, I just changed it. It's Omakase, which means when you go to a sushi restaurant, whatever the chef suggests.
Ah, is that true? Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Yep. Now I got to remember.
It's kind of like John Panette. Feed me, I'm starving. Sono afamato. All right. So anyway, and I know Patrick's is Tomahawk Boy. All right. So anyway,
fire.
Fire.
All right. Do we have anything else to say except that, KillNet bad, Anonymous appears to be good?
So if you look at some of the dystopian future books and stuff, these non-governmental organizations usually means like Doctors Without Borders and Greenpeace. Yeah. Now it's starting to mean criminal hacking gangs and hacktivist gangs. Yeah. And so these things are actually existing now. They actually have agendas. They have political values. Some people will call them terrorists. Some of them will call them freedom fighters. Some of them will call them, irrelevant. But this is a new paradigm that Anonymous is actually doing things that are affecting geopolitics. Right. And I think that's the story. That's the big deal.
Yeah.
Now, you, dear listener, probably don't need to worry about it. Unless you're actually in Anonymous or in KillNet, then you need to worry about it. But other than that, the other thing I want to point out is when these large-scale cyber wars go on, it's damn near impossible, and I know this from our ops, it's damn near impossible to keep your cyber weapons contained to one target. So that would be my other sort of advice to the listener would be just when these types of things are flaring up and you have two massive hacker groups going at it, be careful because the fallout may be, Cobalt Strike beacons getting thrown all over the place, or additional phishing emails, or people trying to steal your account so they can use that to send an email to Anonymous or whatever it may be. Just be more cognizant.
Well, and I really, we don't have any reason to believe that Anonymous wouldn't trample innocent systems to use to mask their location, their affiliation, that kind of thing. So I'm sure they're hacking systems and using them as bases of operations as much as the others are.
Right.
It's just they're different goals. That's all.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Now, if I was going to rewrite the headline for this next story, I would say General Motors gets stuffed up.
Getting stuffed. I love how in the security world we try and make everything sound as fancy as possible. So the title of this is actually General Motors Credential Stuffing Attack Exposes Car Owner Info. So credential stuffing, let me unpack this because it's super complicated. It's you've used a username and password. It got leaked on the dark web and somebody decided to use it. That's it. There's credentials.
Credential stuffing. So...
Right.
With all the fixins.
Right. So it's not a super complicated attack.
So is this what you were talking about before when you said you could take a hash of somebody's password and stuff it into a login page or a login?
That's a great question. Kind of, but not really. So let me explain that a little bit.
Okay.
So if I had a hash of someone's password, which we had talked about, is just a cryptographic representation of their password. It's a one-way algorithm.
Can't decrypt it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can only compare the hashes of two.
So if I take that hash, systems won't typically take that hash as a password, although Windows does, and that's a whole other different story. That's what we were talking about before, was using the hash literally as your credential.
Yeah, okay.
But if you were to then find that hash, let's say in a dump, on the dark web. So let's say, we all shop at mylocalhardwarestore.com and mylocalhardwarestore.com.
Joe's discountsharkcages.com.
There you go. Yes, we're all shopping there. Did they sell lasers for my shark? So let's say we all shop there, and for some reason that particular site gets breached and the usernames and passwords in there get leaked out onto the dark web.
Yeah.
Now, credential stuffing would be somebody takes that list of usernames and passwords from joesharkcages.com.
Discount shark cages.
Not those full price cages.
You never want to pay full price for a shark cage.
Listen, if I'm diving,
maybe you do.
If I'm diving with sharks, I want the most expensive
yes, Duane,
cage
and
ever.
That's why it's funny. Thank you.
Way to murder the joke.
Anyhow, dear listener, so you take those, if we were to breach that site, take the usernames and passwords we find, they make it out on the dark web, and then use that against General Motors, right? Because maybe Carl has a Cadillac, Patrick has a Buick, right?
I know it.
So we could use those passwords. That's credential stuffing. Is just using usernames and passwords, valid usernames and passwords from other sites onto GM site.
All right. So this attack basically, what did it do? Did it just try to log on as all these different people and get their info? Is that it?
It did. Well, I think the primary goal of the attack is GM has a rewards point system. So when you have reward points, you can spend on, I don't know, oil changes and air fresheners and whatever, and kind of like if you had a chase car or whatever, you get these points that you can spend on things. Well,
right.
So they would log in as you and then spend those points on Visa cards and MasterCard gift cards.
Oh.
And now all of your points have been spent. That gift card was sent somewhere else. The downside is you also, your first name, last name, personal email address, username, password, or username, phone number, that sort of stuff was also on the site. So there was some information leak, but I don't think that was the primary reason. The other thing that was interesting is, you know what else is on that site? Most of these cars now come with Wi-Fi. And your Wi-Fi password for your car is on the site.
Wait a minute, what? So they come with a Wi-Fi, like a modem?
Yeah. Most of your cars now, you can get a Wi-Fi hotspot built into the car, and it will have a Wi-Fi hotspot that you can connect through. And
because it's too much trouble to actually get the one you want at the AT&T store or the Verizon store.
Right. So now it's just built right into your car. Yeah. But those passwords were also on the website, so somebody could, I guess, use your hotspot in your car, I suppose. Yeah. So interesting attack.
Thank God I have a Honda. So if you have a GM car, you might have gotten an email from them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Telling you, hey, listen, go change your password.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the GM site does not support two-factor authentication.
Of course they don't. That's why they got breached.
Right. So maybe that will be coming to a GM site near you soon.
And GM says they'll be restoring rewards points for all customers affected by the breach. So taking one for the team.
There you go.
Yeah.
For the downside of not implementing 2FA.
Right.
Awesome.
All right. What's next, man?
This one's great.
Is it awesome?
This is awesome. All right. So I don't know how many of you have. Everybody has a webcam, right? And I know I cover my webcam with a professional cover. Actually, when we go to conferences, as Patrick covers his with his thumb, as we go to conferences, that's actually one of the little frou-frou things we give away. Little swag items is camera covers. Yeah, those little sliding camera covers.
With our logo on it.
With our logo on it, so you're always staring at Pulsar Security. So what's interesting is that the fear has always been someone could spin up your webcam and see stuff, right? And that's exactly what this is. So Screencastify is a plugin for Chrome that gives you the ability to cast your screen. So you can actually show people what's on your screen, and it'll record video as well. You can record through the webcam, which sounds great, I guess. But the problem is there's an exploit in that particular plugin, what's known as an XSS or cross-site scripting exploit,
right?
That allows someone to send you a link, and if you click on it, they not only can get access to your camera and force it to do recording anytime they want without notification through the browser, but they also have the ability to have access to your what's called dedicated OAuth or authentication token to your Gmail drive, because the plugin requires access to the Gmail drive.
Jeez.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? So not only can they tell your camera to record, and then the place that it records to is Gmail, they also have access to your G drive to get access to those videos. So yeah, there's a whole lot to unravel here. And sites like Screencastify, of course, there's a status Screencastify, quote Screencastify, go Screencastify, learn Screencastify. These are all different sites that, according to this article, still have issues. So just be careful if you see that as a plugin in your Chrome browser. Make sure it's up to date.
I'm afraid if anybody got access to my webcam, they would see me looking at my screen with my eyes crossed. Just writing code.
The puzzled look
That's
all
my
day long.
screensaver.
Puzzled look on my face, yeah.
That's
Or
what I like to do, is just
going,
stare at Carl all day long.
What? How did...
What in the what?
The what? Yep. All right. Multiple governments are buying Android 0 days for spying.
Yeah, so we've talked about this before, where there is a market for hacks for zero days. A 0 day, again, is an unknown hack, something that hasn't been exposed.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's new. It might have been in the software for 10 years.
Right.
We've seen that before.
Right.
But it's unknown, it's unreported, it's unpatched, so that makes it very valuable. Well, there's marketplaces out there on what we would call the dark web where you can buy those things. And we're seeing activity where governments are actually making purchases, especially of Android platform stuff.
These are the hackers that decided not to go to Pwn to Own, but instead, not go for $100,000, but go for $1 million.
Right. So it's funny though, because you have three markets, right? You have the hackers who are like, hey, we're going to show how great we are and we're going to earn a little bit of cash. And they go to Pwn to Own and they sell it actually back to the vendor. And then you have the other hackers who go, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to sell it to governments for millions of dollars. And then you have the other hackers who go, we're not going to sell it to any of those people. We're going to sell it to whoever pays us the most.
Criminals.
Which may be criminals, which may be terrorists, or it might be governments. Who knows, right? At that point. All sorts of markets.
Hard to distinguish.
Right.
Career advice, shop your goods.
Career advice, sell it to all three.
Yeah.
I think you end up dead by the governments.
Or the terrorists. You don't know who you're running from at that point.
That's the plot of a Blacklist episode.
I think it is. Oh my God, such a great show.
So not much more to say about that. I mean, there's not much you can do. It's not an actionable story.
It's really about knowing that the nature of the markets and how what a 0 day means, where it comes from.
Reboot your Android phone every day.
Yeah, but it also means that. So one of the things that we stress all the time is patching. You need to patch.
Right.
If everyone patched, would it make a huge difference? Yeah, it would make a huge difference. It's probably the number one thing you can do. The next thing would be to limit the attack surface. Yeah. Because a house made of glass is a lot easier to break into than one with no windows or doors on the first floor.
Right.
So it's about, limiting. If things don't need to be available over the internet or on a wireless network, don't enable them that way.
Right.
And so attack surface is the next. And the thing about these 0 days is attack surface is the thing that's going to save you in a 0 day. When somebody comes after you with a 0 day, patching won't, but patching will save you from almost everything else.
Right. Well, and common sense too, I think. Like, I'll tell you a story from my own personal.
Let's not tell people to have what they can't get.
Oh, that's so hurtful. No. I'll tell you a story from my personal life. Like, this just day before yesterday, my wife went to log into our bank on her phone, and she has an Android phone. And she decided not to. And I was like, what's up? And she said, my phone is acting really slow. It's possible there's malware on here. Nope, not going to do it. She decided to go use her laptop. I was super proud. I'm just saying.
That was great.
It's impressive.
Yeah,
you've made her intimidated by technology.
Or paranoid by anything that is technology at all. Yeah. Yeah.
I ever since I stopped going to getyourmalwarehere.com, my phone has been very nicely clean.
Your battery life has been excellent.
Battery life is great. Awesome. Yeah.
Once a week reboots, people. Once a week.
I would do it every day, man. Why not? It only takes a minute.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Yep.
You do it. Go get a cup of coffee. When you come back, it's rebooted. All right. So the last one is about the Federal Trade Commission. Is it? And Twitter. I guess they're fining Twitter for $150 million for using two-factor authentication info for targeted advertising. Those bastards.
I knew you'd
I've never heard of any such thing. Isn't everybody use data for advertising? Isn't that what the...
I actually was surprised by this one myself. I'm like, oh, that's not allowed?
Yeah. No, well, okay. So it's like if somebody...
Feels like a party foul.
No, not at all. I don't think so. Honestly, I think this absolutely was something that shouldn't be done. If we were to, let's say Twitter were to take all of the users' passwords that people put into Twitter.
Yeah.
And then use those to do analytics on what the worst passwords are and that sort of stuff. And then use that to break in other sites. We'd be like, oh my God, that's absurd. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah, of course.
So I think there's certain information we give Twitter, like our password, our private information, our 2FA, like
security questions.
Right, security questions that should not be mined. You shouldn't be using that.
They got emails for everybody who has calico cats.
Right.
For example, and they were peddling cat chow.
Yep.
Whatever.
Yep. Yeah, and Twitter. Yeah, exactly. So Twitter could say, "Oh, hey, we know that your phone number that you use for 2FA is out of I don't know, Canada and
whatever.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And they start targeting you based on that, and I think that's not.
Yeah, okay, based on location, that makes sense.
Right.
But but if you're also posting cat pictures, they might send you some kitty litter.
That's okay. Like, I see that. I think that's fine because you've publicly said, this is something I enjoy.
You're right.
For Twitter to profile you on that, that's fine.
You can expect that.
Yes, right. But it would be terrible if I went to my doctor and I was like, hey, here are some of my my health concerns. And then my doctor goes to some drug company, goes, hey, Duane's really worried about these things. Why don't you go send him an email about,
catheters.
Right, exactly. Whatever. Catheter. Hey, now I want to go back to see what my health concern was.
He's making plans for the future. Your
How many
future
things
ride
are
in a hospital
catheters the
bed.
answer, Patrick? This is probably a small list. So I could see that that's a breach trust, though, because it's like I talked to them about something that shouldn't have been public, and they went and sold that data or used that data in some way.
So here's a question that I'm dying to know. What do you guys think about the reports about people's phones listening when they shouldn't be listening, and then all of a sudden you could start getting ads for what you were talking to your friends about? Ooh. Is that a thing, or is that coincidence?
Okay, so I would like to break that into two parts. People's phones listening when they shouldn't be listening is absolutely a thing, and the 0 days we just talked about from the government agencies can do that now.
Right.
The Pegasus NCC group exploit can do that now.
But I mean, is Facebook doing that to send me ads?
I would like to think no. But I can tell you that there was, what was the name of the bill? There was a bill that was overturned where ISPs couldn't use your search data to then sell that for advertising. Because imagine everything at your ISP, when you search for stuff at your house, it all comes through your ISP.
Yeah.
So imagine now, you're looking to go on a camping trip, right? And you start researching campers or whatever. And now you start seeing tons of ads for hiking boots and that sort of stuff. It's not uncommon for that to be your ISP, whether it's Cox or Xfinity or whoever, saying, oh, they're looking for these camper things.
Yeah.
Hey, I know that this house specifically is looking for camper things. Let's send them more ads there.
And that's probably the link, because if you have an assistant like Alexa or any of those other things,
don't say that word.
They do web searches.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is also probably something that you can see in the data. So I have Comcast, for example. No knowledge that Comcast does this, but I also have some of the assistants, the virtual assistant stuff. If I were to tell a virtual assistant to, hey, what's the price of, or where's the nearest place I can buy this? It's not a stretch if my ISP is selling that information that they're going to know, and it's going to start showing up in my browsers.
Right.
Yep.
So it's not necessarily your phone. Your phone is probably the most secure piece of technology in your life.
Yeah, except for the fact that the government can listen to you whenever they want.
Well, there's that.
Remember, that story was specifically about Androids, and Duane and I have been fairly clear that we use iPhones for a reason. They're harder to get into. The last iPhone exploit that was for sale on the black market was selling for $2.7 million. They're not common.
I guess you could do a test, right? And I had tried this before and it didn't work. You just put the phone in the middle of two people and you have a conversation, but you bring up stuff that's completely outrageous, like completely not on anyone's radar. Like, I need to buy a bag of concrete tomorrow.
Yeah.
A bag of concrete. How often does that come up? And then, the next day, go look on Twitter and go to Google and see what your ads are. And if there are ads for concrete, somebody's doing a dirty bit of cheating.
Well, and I would also add to the suspect list the in-home assistance.
Yeah.
From,
well, here's the thing with the one who starts with A, who I won't say out loud, otherwise I'm going to get, all sorts of suggestions. You can actually go to Amazon and listen to all of the recordings that they have made. And they're all just, based on, they happen when you say the keyword. And then it only listens for, a couple of seconds until it finds a phrase. But those are all saved there, and you can delete them, and you can tell the one who starts with A, delete all of my recordings. And she will delete them. And I've tested it, and you can go there and they're all gone. Now, they're gone to me. Are they gone forever? I don't know.
Nah.
But there are some that are unintelligible. Like, she thought you said the keyword, and then there's this unintelligible blanter for 5 seconds. So there are those that are up there that,
Blanter being a good example of unintelligible words.
Absolutely. I just made that up. Free
Blanter.
Of charge for all my friends.
Using that word all the time now.
Blanter.
Blanter.
Blather. Blasker. All right, guys. I think that's a show, right?
Yes, sir. I think that's all that's happened this week.
All right.
The less we have to talk about, the safer everyone is.
That's right. Remember to patch.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? Don't take any
minimize the attack surface.
Don't take any wood nickels. All right, we'll see you next week.
Not as catchy.
Thanks, guys. Any wood nickels. Bye.